we're going to use a technique called wax resist, and I'm going to show you a couple of videos in this one. Starting off with a wax crayon, just regular wax crayon, and you won't be able to see necessarily what I'm drawing. So I'm just going to go over this. That's it. And then a nice wet soppy brush, and then for this I'm using what's called a mop brush, which I'll hold up to the camera. And I'm just going to grab some greens and mix up a nice green. I think a little bit of yellow in this. Lots of water, and there we have a very, very quick lettuce leaf. And this is a great technique, and let's have a explore of it further. So I'm going to take some pastels, and I'm using oil pastels here, which have got wax content, but any type of wax crayon. You've got Crayola crayons, cheap supermarket crayons, doesn't really matter. They all kind of work the same, and I'm just using a piece of watercolour card, but again, you could use anything, greetings cards, cut up paper, anything that will take some water on it and some scribbling of a crayon. So I've got the white, and I'm just going to create a nice couple of shapes. Like so. And I think I'm going to add some yellow. Oops, if it'll come out of the packet. It's more of an orange than a yellow, this, but I quite like the depth of colour that it gives. And I think that's it for the wax. Now, one of the things you may notice on the camera is it's just bubbled up a bit, so what I tend to do is just rub that down the board. And then I'm using a heavy wash brush, but again, whatever brushes you've got to hand, there's no right or wrong with this. And I think I'm going to mix up, I'll just move the brush out of the way, mix up a nice blue using this one. Actually, I'll add a bit of that too. And there's a wonderful blue in this palette which I'm going to take across. I always mix watercolour brands up. I'm never that worried about the integrity of using the same the same brand on anything. I think it's more about getting the colours right and the colours as you'd like them. So that's a nice there. But I think we're going to turn this into a nighttime scene. So I'm just going to darken it off a bit. And nice, a lot of water on the brush as usual, and I'm just going to do this. I think we'll add some of that into here too. Let's mix up a purple now, so I'm just going to occupy this bit, which has already got some greens and some blues. So if I add some red, I'll get some of these nice colours through. In fact, I'm going to take this a lot more red than that, I think. That's it. Actually, that's becoming quite a nice colour. And I'm just going to run that across the edge there, across the bottom. Maybe we'll just add a bit more water and just take it across. I'm just going to drain that brush out and then go back across. Just make that a bit paler. And then I'll add some of this into here too. Yeah. Now I'm going to go back to the crayons again, because I've decided, as we're going to make what's beginning to be a sort of nighttime landscape, I'm going to just add a few stars in. So again, I'm just using a thick chunky wax crayon. Added a few stars. Again, give it a quick tap just to knock off any excess. back to the wash brush again, and I'm going to make a darker blue just to go at the top a bit. So some of this nice electric blue, which is really looking quite stunning, and I'm just going to drag that across the top there. What I might do is add a very small touch of black, make it a bit richer, a bit more blue, a bit more black, and we'll just bring this in through here. That's nicer. That's, you see, that's starting to look like a nighttime sky now. There we are. Now let's get this nice greens, I think, coming in, and we're just going to add some landscape. So again, when this is at an angle, it's bringing it down, which means the heavy colours are at the bottom, and I think that adds to that sense of depth that we can create. Perfect. Now we've got a very defined edge appearing here, and just to soften that, again, I'm just going to empty the brush of all water and colour and just run the brush along. I should have tacked this board down before I started working on it. As you can see, it's buckling, but for this purpose I think it's fine. Let's go back to the wax crayon. I'll just grab some of this one. I think we'll just add some foliage in the foreground. And you can see the wax is picking up the watercolour now as well, so it's drawing both with wax and watercolour as we go. Let's add some bits into the background there. Take that up. Now that's coming on quite nicely. I think if we add a grass green somewhere within that, I'm just going to use this bit here, take that through, something like that. What perhaps is missing though, and I think this is perhaps a mistake I've made that I'm going to come back to, is the sky is now slightly too muddy. So I'm going to build up some blues, very heavy blues. If you look on the palette how that comes out, it's quite spectacular. And I'm just going to bring that blue back in to the sky a bit. Yeah, I start to get a sense that there's the moon and it's reflecting on some water, so I'm just going to bring that water back in. So bring some of those sky colours down into what we're doing. And just with some water, just to help this mix, I'm just going to run that along the bottom edge, like so. Bit more detail going in, because as we're talking about the foreground here, so it's important to communicate that this is the foreground that's going on. And we communicate that simply through a few brush strokes and marks. It's very similar to as you would do any watercolour, building up that layer of wash so it comes through. Again, this is a completely imaginary landscape, so it doesn't matter what details make it, what details don't. Got a bit of a cliff feature in there to reinforce a hill. We'll do something similar there. And I think let's take some of these greens into the sea, or river, or lake, however you would like to interpret that. Got some of these browns. And I think that's it, a quick demonstration of wax resist and watercolour.